I am going to explore advertising through video games and the effect it has on the player. In 1973, the first instance of brand integration in video games was found in Digital Equipment Corporation's Moonlander, also known as Lunar Lander. Although not endorsed by McDonald's, one of the hidden features in the game revealed messages for landing on a certain spot. Gamers nowadays would call this an Easter egg. If you executed a proper landing on the right spot, a McDonald's would appear. The astronaut would come out, walk over to the McDonald's, order a Big Mac, walk back, and take off. If you crashed on the McDonald's, the message would read, "You clod. You destroyed the only McDonald's on the moon." Another instance was when Midway released an updated version of Pac-Man entitled Pac-Man Plus. It featured what appeared to be a Coca-Cola can as one of the power-ups. Another early form of in-game advertising was in the use of pinball machines. You probably won't find a pinball machine that is not associated with a brand, band, movie, cartoon, etc. Everything from Simpsons to Kiss to Harley to even Playboy. McDonald's even tried its hand at getting a jump start into video games. However, in 1982, the first McDonald's advert game was canceled due to lack of interest other than in the 8 to 9-year-old children. It would have featured Ronald McDonald feeding hungry aliens. After that, in 1983, Coca-Cola teamed up with Atari to create an advert game version of Space Invaders in which Pepsi was the enemy. In the late 80s, advertising in games really took off. Plenty of sponsored sports titles flooded the market. Not only was the sponsor's name in the video game name, but it was also featured in in-game objects and billboards. There were a couple cross-media games that came out which I remember playing. Michael Jackson's Moonwalker featured the artist singing and dancing to save children. This was probably one of the first crossovers from music to video games for an artist. Another fun cross-media game was the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles video game. It not only promoted the series in comics, but also featured Pizza Hut pizza as one of its main power-ups. From then until now, and for years to come, video games have and will continue to be a very lucrative vehicle for advertisements. Everything including sports sponsorships, book and film cross-media, major corporations' in-game ads, and advert games, and many other options. One of the most common ways to promote via video games is the use of in-game product placements. This can be a Pepsi billboard, a Doritos delivery truck, a Sprite vending machine, or even a Starbucks that is permanently part of the game. Another huge aspect of video game advertising, one that I think is the biggest, is the use of sponsorships, particularly in sports. The NFL especially has sold the rights of their name and logo to be used only in the Madden video game franchise. This is a multi-million-dollar revenue source for video games and probably the best way to get the name out for the company, since even if I don't play the game, I will still associate that brand with it and see it on the boxes. Another form of video game advertising is the use of advert games, especially today with the use of mobile apps and websites. I touched briefly on the ancient use of advert games, but I think they are a fun way for a company to promote its brand, even more so if the gameplay is actually good. Another form of advertisement that comes into play recently is the use of actual commercials in free-to-play games. This is particularly done in mobile phone and online games. It is a nuisance for gamers, and they usually will feel negative about the brands that disrupt their gameplay. What is your name?
Chris Fields.
Would you say that you're an avid gamer?
Definitely.
How do you feel about video game advertisements?
If they don't impede my gameplay, I'm mostly okay with them. But if they're ads that actually interrupt what I'm doing, I don't want to see those.
Would you ever not play a video game because of a sponsorship?
Absolutely. Because there are certain companies that I personally would boycott in the real world, and so if I know that they're partnered with a certain game company and or a specific game, then I would boycott that company or game as well.
Can you recall one instance where an in-game advertisement had disrupted your gameplay?
Yes. It was iOS game, and it was one of those. It was one of the ones that was free to play, but then you beat a level and you have to watch, a 5-minute video before you get to go to the next one. And at that point, it doesn't become worth it when it's so invasive and so interruptive, and so I just deleted the whole game.
Has an in-game ad ever given you a negative connotation of a brand?
Yes. Again, it's the same type of situation. If an ad is on the sidelines, like in a Madden or a baseball type game, that's one thing, because that's what you'd expect at a stadium. But if it's actually stopping my game and making me watch a commercial, especially if it's a game that I've paid for, then, I wonder what kind of ad exec really does their market research for gamers, because we're not interested in things like that.
I don't have a problem with video game advertisements and actually endorse them as long as they are well done and fit the scene of the game. It puts a more realistic feel to the game, and if it makes them more money, which in turn gives me better games, then I'm all for it. However, going back to the picture I displayed earlier is where the issue comes into play of when too much is not a good thing.